Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. I'm Naresh Vissa. Today we have Dr. John on the show. He is the mental health coach to the stars. He's also the inventor and father of Afformations. He is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Book of Afformations, Discovering the Missing Piece to Abundant Health, Wealth, Love, and Happiness. And Seven for Life helps to leverage the 4 focus factors and happiness.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, well, can you start the episode by just walking us through your background and how you became a mental health business coach?
Well, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood, and I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally
That's
true.
kind of like me.
Yes, well, it's a cliche, I know, but it's really true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England, but my family was dirt poor, and I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road and a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves is everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. And, you hear these speakers, they get on stage all the time. They say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So, no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. And so from a very young age, I hated being poor. I hated that life of poverty, fear, lack, not enoughness. That's what I grew up with. But I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I literally said, well, how the heck do I get from here to there? And of course, there was no one to help me back then. There was no coaches or mentors and, of course, no internet back then. And so I did the only thing I could do. And I went to the library. I just went to the library and just started reading books on self-help, personal growth. I read every book that I could on that topic, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, and I read them all and really, really tried to get them to work. But I just couldn't get them to work. As hard as I tried, I couldn't get them to work. And so at the age of 25, I decided to, because I was so depressed, I was so frustrated and depressed that things weren't going the way I wanted, I decided to commit suicide. I decided to take my own life. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, I don't know why I'm here on the earth. I've got to find my life's purpose. So I went back to the library, read more books on spiritual growth, Ernest Holmes, Neil Donald Walsh, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, and, spiritual thinkers of our time. And then fast forward 5 years later, I had 2 epiphanies that really changed the course of my life and enabled me to realize this is my purpose on the earth. And so I published my first book, which was entitled Permission to Succeed, back in 1998, which was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher in 1999. And now I've written 21 books, and we've helped our clients add over $2.8 billion in found revenues. We help people add 6, 7, and even 8 figures working from home. So, we work with entrepreneurs from over 140 countries around the world. And, we've really helped people to really have a lot of success, not just making a lot more money, but even more importantly, getting their lives back.
And we've done an episode with Amy Newmark at the Chicken Soup. It was an awesome episode. Huge fan of what they do over there. Who are some of the famous clients you've worked with? Because your nickname is the mental health coach to the stars. Who are these stars?
Well, I'm not exactly allowed to give out those names, but if you go to my website, you can go to noahstjohn.com. You'll see a lot of the people who endorse my work, people like Jenny McCarthy and Gary Vaynerchuk and Stephen Covey, Jack Canfield, John Assaraf. But that is what I've been able to do for the last 25 years. Is what's ironic is I've been coaching people on their mental health for over 25 years now, but 5 years ago, you couldn't even say mental health. If you said mental health, people would, say, oh, you're talking about crazy people? And it's like, no, we're talking about normal, everyday people. But see, you couldn't use the term mental health. Well, what happened was a lot of celebrities started to talk about mental health, especially, with the pandemic that happened. And so what is so funny and ironic is now everybody talks about mental health. Well, that only happened in the last 5 years, and I've been teaching it for over 25 years. So I'm like, well, thanks for coming to the party, everybody. It's good to have you. It's about time everybody showed up.
I remember that about 10 to 15 years ago, mental health was taboo to talk about it. Like you said, nobody talked about it. But now I feel like it's the opposite. Now I feel like it's just constantly being referenced, being talked about. Employers now are giving mental health days. It's like the polar opposite. I think there needs to be some type of happy medium, because you have people now, and maybe you can talk about this, but people just coming in saying, oh, mental health problems, I got mental health issues for every little thing.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that it's more this way than the other way that it was, because it was absolutely a taboo subject. Meanwhile, that's why, the suicide rates have been on the rise, and, people are feeling lonelier and more cut off than ever. As with all the social media and with all the connectivity we have today, people are feeling more isolated and more alone and lonely than ever. In fact, a recent study was done that asked American adults, how many close friends do you have? And back in 1986, they did a survey, and they asked people that question, and the answer was 3. They did that same study just recently, in 2011, and the answer was 0. So most adults in America have no close friends with all the connectivity we have. So that's one of the things, of course, that I help my clients with, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching, really to help people to install what I call the systems of support. Having that strong support system is absolutely crucial.
Well, I think that's an important question that you just brought up. How many close friends? First off, we need to define close friend. To me, a close friend is somebody who you can call on the phone at any time, and even if they don't pick up, they'll call you back, and you can talk for an hour. Hey, how's life? Hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? How's work? That's what a close friend is. And I'm a millennial, but I think I still have. You said this study was done, I think, in the 1980s or 1970s initially. I still have that mindset of picking up the phone, of calling my close friends. I think I have more than 3, fortunately.
Well, that's good.
But what I'm concerned about, and I don't know if you talk about this in one of your books, or if you coach this with your clients, but this next generation of kids who are growing up with cell phones, with social media. I mean, like, I have 2 very young sons, and they were both born literally with phones in our hands. Like, as my wife was giving birth, the phone was in her hand. Like, I had a phone in my hand recording stuff. And my concern is, okay, I'm a millennial. I grew up without the internet, at least for the first 10 years or so of my life, or the first 6 or 7 years of my life. Definitely without Wi-Fi for the first 15 years or so of my life. So I know what life is like without screens and computers and internet and social media. But this new generation, how are the parents going to prevent them from becoming, I don't want to say becoming addicted, but prevent them from antisocial behavior?
Well, that is something that I do talk about in my new book, The 7-Figure Life. As you mentioned, the new book is called The 7-Figure Life: How to Leverage the 4 Focus Factors for More Wealth and Happiness. And people can pick that book up at 7figurelifebook.com. But one of the things that I talk about all the time is that these social media companies absolutely want to addict you. So that is the word that I use, because they do it on purpose. So, the human brain is basically developed over millions of years to have 3 separate, in a sense, not separate, but, distinct areas. You have the reptile brain, that's the ancient brain. Then there's the midbrain, and then there's the neocortex, which is our higher brain functions. Well, these social media platforms, they go direct for the lizard brain, meaning the ancient brain, so that they addict you. Their job is to keep you addicted so that they can make money. because the way they make money is to show you advertising. And so that's the only way they make money. So they target your brain and they do this very much on purpose and very consciously. So one of the things that I work with my clients on all the time is to get control back of your life. That's why I was talking a moment ago, that not only do my clients make a lot more money, adding 6 and 7 and even 8 figures, but much more importantly, they win their lives back. It's getting control of your life back. So you literally win back 1 to 3 hours in your day and 4 to 8 weeks per year. I'll give you a quick example from one of my clients. His name's Brian, and he came to me and he said that he really didn't have a clear path or vision. He was just kind of working day to day and kind of grinding like a lot of people talk about. And, it was going all right. And he was working from home, but, it wasn't really going that well. And he spent a lot of money and a lot of time, trying all these other things, but nothing was really working. So I walked him through my process to really, put these systems in place. And in 12 days, he was able to put these systems in place and actually make $95,000 extra dollars, almost $100,000 in just 12 days. And not only that, he said that he found an additional, 2 to 3 hours per day. Things that used to take him hours now take him just 15 minutes. So imagine what you could do with all that extra time, not let alone all that money.
Well, I think our listeners are probably wondering, okay, well, what are some of these hacks and strategies? I have a few of them. I'll admit I haven't read your book fully, but I'll just quickly share some of them. So number one is I don't take or watch TV seriously. Like I don't even own a nice TV because I barely watch it. Mm-hmm. And I think people, they watch a lot of TV and that takes away from their work. It takes away from their families. It takes away from their quality time. TV just over the last 15 years or so hasn't been an important part of my life, which means that I don't watch a lot of sports. When I was a kid, I used to spend 4 to 5 hours a day during my summer vacations just watching sports and sports news and the latest rumors and trades. Now I spend, I would say, maybe 5 minutes a day just staying up to date on what's going on there. I think the news also, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think the news is junk. I think it's also addictive. You said social media companies are trying to get people addicted on purpose. News is the same way. They try to get people addicted through the headlines, through the fear mongering, through the polarization. At least it seems like everything is political these days. I think politics in general also is a huge waste. You can really get caught up in that. And we saw what's happened with riots and insurrections and you name it. That's purely news taken away from what people should be spending their time on, which is themselves, which is their families, which is their jobs, which is their children, their vacations, etc. So these are just a few. Well, then I want to share as far as kids go, because these are mostly adult topics. But as far as kids go, I think when kids are young, you have to get them active. You have to take them away from the screens, the phones, the iPads. You got to get them out, put them in some sports, put them in some music or instruments or whatever other hobby. You have to get them out of the house and get them to find those 3 or 4 things that they enjoy doing. That's not just school. That way they're not dependent on a TV screen for happiness or for whiling away their time.
Yeah, absolutely. It is ironic because one of the things that happened as a result of the pandemic was a lot of people realized that all these things that we thought were so important, we realized that, man, maybe they're not so important. Maybe what's really important is family and is just enjoying every day of life and being thankful for what we have. What's interesting is you have to have a balance between being grateful for what you have every day and also still striving for your goals. So that's one of the things that I work with my clients on all the time, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching or even in my keynote speeches, is realizing that, yes, we have to be grateful every day, because if you're not grateful, then it's very easy to fall into that compare-itis, that especially with social media. And it absolutely does that. It feeds that. And, look at this and look how cool I am and look at all my cool stuff and look at my plane and my jet and everything like that. And you're like, oh, man, I'm not doing that well. and so that compareritis can be really tough to overcome. But, one of the ways you can overcome that is by being grateful for everything that you have. But at the same time, we still have to strive for the things that we do want, setting those goals and then really putting the systems in place so that you can reach them much, much faster. And one of the biggest things also is realizing that everything you desire is on the other side of fear. Whenever you want something, whether it's to make more money, whether it's to grow your business, whether it's to write a book, whether it's to, be on TV, whatever it might be, there's always going to be fear associated with that thing that you want. And so a lot of people, one of the mistakes that they make is they say, well, I'm going to wait till I'm not scared to do it. And then I always tell them, I said, well, then you'll never do it. I mean, you literally never do it. One of my clients was actually telling me that exact thing. His name's Tim. And he said, well, I don't know if I really want to do this. And he finally admitted he was just scared to go in this certain direction. I said, well, you're going to, in 10 years, you're going to regret the things you didn't do a lot more than the things you did do. And so, we put these systems in place for him. Well, he went after it. He faced his fear, and he actually built a 7-figure work from home business in less than 2 years as a result of putting these systems in place.
Your latest book, The 7-Figure Life, How to Leverage the 4 Focus Factors for More Wealth and Happiness. Can you quickly walk us through those 4 focus factors?
Yes, absolutely. So, this is something that people ask me all the time, my clients, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching. This is one of the things we're always working on is focus, because we live in a world of infinite distractions. And so that's one of the biggest things that people, come to me for and hire me for is to help, because, they have all these goals, all these dreams, but they just keep putting them off. They keep procrastinating. And so they're saying, no, I'm having trouble focusing. So I realized that there really are these 4 focus factors that are in play, especially, for those of you who are working from home, which is what this program is all about. And so I like to say it in this way, to my clients and also in my keynote speeches. I say, all right, I tell you what, I want you to imagine that I give you $1 million right now, right? I'm going to give you $1 million. And people go, oh, okay, that sounds great. I say, there's just one catch. And they go, well, what's the catch? I say, the catch is that you have no time to enjoy it. You have absolutely no time to enjoy this money. Does that sound like a good deal? And they're like, well, not really. That doesn't sound like a great deal. Okay, well, I tell you what, I'll give you $1 million, but you have to be sad, miserable, and unhappy all the time. Sound good? No, not really. That's not a great deal. Okay, I tell you what, I will give you $1 million and you have no one to enjoy it with, right? You have no family and no friends and you can't enjoy it with anybody. Sound good? Like, no, none of that sounds any good, right? So that's how I show people what these 4 focus factors really are. The 4 focus factors are what I just showed you: time, energy, relationships, and money. So when we look at the focus factors of time, energy, relationships, and money, we realize that if you are only going after money, which is what, of course, we're taught to do, just go after money at the expense of everything else, that's going to actually, maybe you'll get all that money, but what's the cost of all that? And, to have no time, to have no energy, to have no relationships, then the money really isn't worth anything. And so I'll give you a quick example. I was working with one of my clients, his name's Charles, and he said, I asked him, I said, if we don't put these things in place for you, how much do you think you're going to lose this year? And he said, well, I'm probably going to lose out on $1 million. I'm probably going to just, it's going to cost me $1 million if we don't put these things in place. I said, I tell you what, just give me 10% of that million and I will find you that $1 million in the next 12 months. So he paid me that. He paid me $100,000. That's 10% of $1 million to coach him one-on-one for 12 months. Well, I didn't find him $1 million in 12 months. I found him $1.8 million in 10 months. But not only that, not only the money, he sent me an email. He said, hey, now guess where I am? I'm on my 7-week vacation. I bought a new RV, and my wife and I were traveling the Southeast in our new RV. We took 7 weeks off. And he said, not only do I have more money than ever, I have more time than I've ever had in my life. So that is what can happen, an example of what can happen when you put these 4 focus factors in place.
Your previous book is the Book of Afformations, and I believe you coined that term. It's spelled AFFORMATIONS. What are affirmations, and what's that book all about?
So everybody knows what an affirmation is. That's the old thing we've been taught for, over 2 centuries. And it's a statement of something you want to be true. And you say something like, I am happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. And your brain goes, oh, you're not. Right. And we tend to not believe these statements. And so I invented 25 years ago, I invented this process, this method that I called the Afformations method. So an affirmation is an empowering question So instead of saying something like, I am rich, and your brain goes, yeah, right. You ask an empowering question like, why am I so rich? Why am I so happy? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? Now, when you form an empowering question like that in your brain, you're engaging what's called the embedded presupposition factor of the brain. That's simply a fancy way of saying when you ask a question, your brain searches for the answer. So what is so amazing is that over 1 million people are now using my Afformations method that I've been teaching, since 1997. And we've helped people, who have used my methods along with these, 4 focus factors that I talk about in the new book to, literally add 6 and 7 and even 8 figures to their business, but also have more time, have better relationships, lose weight, find love. We've saved a lot of marriages. And we've also helped people who were thinking of taking their own lives to really find meaning and purpose in their lives again. So really, it is incredibly transformational and life-changing. And you can learn more about that at afformations.com. That's AFFORMATIONS, just like it sounds, afformations.com.
Afformations.com. All right. And you also talk about a concept called the belief gap.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that gap is?
Yes. So for everyone listening to the program, think about those things that you want, right? So let's say you have these goals for the next 12 months of your life. I want to grow my business. I want to get more clients. I want to write a book. I want to, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be just your business. It could be in your relationships. It could be in your health. I want to lose weight. I want to, find love. I want to improve my marriage, whatever it might be, right? So you think about those goals. So that's where you want to go. But then you think about where you are. So where you are is what I call your current limited identity, or CLI. That means you are who you think you are right now. And where you want to get to is what I call your NDI. That's your new desired identity. That's who you want to be and what you want to have. I call that your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Well, between where you are and where you want to be, there's a gap. And for millions and millions of people, unbeknownst to them, they have an unconscious belief gap. Now, that belief gap very simply means they say, well, Noah, I really want to do these things, but I don't think I can do it. And so the point is they're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. And so just like if you're driving in your car, let's say you're driving down the road to the grocery store, but unbeknownst to you, you've developed the unconscious habit of driving with one foot on the brake. It's going to take you a long time to get there. Meanwhile, you're spending a lot of time, money, and effort not reaching your goals. And so that's why what we do at my company, which is successclinic.com, and we've been doing this for over 25 years, is we help people to, number one, identify why their foot's on the brake in the first place. And number two is to systematically get your foot off the brake. And so, we have so many stories of people who we've helped to double, triple, quadruple their life, or their income, their revenues, literally in less than 12 weeks. That's why one of the things I'm known for is helping people make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the previous 12 months. We call that the 12-week breakthrough. So we have a 12-week breakthrough. You can learn more about that at breakthroughwithnoah.com. But that's what really that belief gap is all about. That belief gap is that voice that says, oh, I don't think I can do it. Like Charles, who I was just talking about. I mean, we found $1.8 million just as a result of, helping him to overcome this belief gap.
Now, there were some interesting topics that I read about in the collateral that you sent me and some of the collateral that I found online. What are the 2 most effective questions of all time? That's an interesting one.
Well, I mean, frankly, that differs for each person. But what I've found is the number one most important question that anyone can ask is, why am I enough? See, many when I first started, teaching this online in the late 1990s, my very first newsletter, which was an email newsletter, was called "You Are Enough," because I realized that the number one problem that millions and millions of people are facing, whether they're working from home or you're working at a job or whatever it might be, is that you think you're not enough, right? And so I realized that to combat that, we have to, train people, teach people that you are enough. And so I was the first person to ever teach that. Now, of course, everybody talks about that, but I was the first one, just like I've been teaching mental health for 25 years, and just now everybody's like coming on the bandwagon. So I'm like, thanks for joining me, everybody. It's good to have you here at the party finally. But so when you affirm that, going back to my Afformations method, you actually are going to engage the embedded presupposition factor of the brain, and that will in fact change your life. We have so many stories of people that we've. In fact, I'll give you a quick example. In my 12-week breakthrough, we had one woman. Her name's Tamisa from Arizona, work from home entrepreneur, and she was a self-proclaimed seminar junkie. She was going to all these seminars and spent all this money, but really kept hitting that income ceiling. Kept, as I call it, driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. And so, she joined my 12-week breakthrough program, and I was coaching her and helping her through these processes. And she tripled her investment in just 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, she tripled her investment. And we hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. So, talk about just hockey stick growth. Literally tripling in 2 weeks. And what's amazing about that, what's even more wonderful, is she decided to face her fears and actually enter her first bikini contest. And so she entered the first bikini contest, and she came in third place. And guess what? She's 68 years old.
Oh, wow.
Entering a bikini contest at 68. I was like, man, talk about overcoming your fear. I was very proud of her.
Yeah, and I think there's this false misconception going around the world, really, that's telling people you are not enough. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very detrimental, and people need to wake up and take your advice. Hey, you are enough. Yes, maybe you have some limiting factor. Maybe you were born with some type of handicap. Maybe your ancestors were slaves or went through a lot of hardship. Maybe you had a very tough time as a kid with bullying or whatever it might be. But I think if you take the mindset of, hey, I am enough, regardless of your past, regardless of your skin color, regardless of anything else, and you accept that reality, I am enough, instead of falling into the trap of victimhood, the sky is the limit. Anything is possible.
That's what I've been teaching people for 25 years now. So yes, I would have to agree with that. So, and I want people to realize that, remember, these social media companies and media companies, they want you to think that you're not enough. They want you to believe that you are not enough, and you have to buy this and buy that in order to be enough. So it does come down to that, a delicate balance between, okay, to be grateful for what I have and to realize that, yes, I am enough, and also keep striving for the things that I do want in my life, whether it is more money or more time or whatever it might be. So there is a delicate balance there. But the point is to come from the place of enough. If you're coming from I'm not enough, then you're going to be needy. And that very thing is going to be the thing that repels the thing that you want from you. So when you're coming from enough, that's going to be the thing that attracts things to you.
That's a good one. I'm going to really think about that over the next couple of weeks and try to implement it more. What is the one question? We talked about questions, the most effective question, but what is the one question you should never ask?
Why am I not enough? Right? Or I could even be more specific and say, why can't I do X? In other words, I want to write a book, I want to make more money, I want to grow my business or start my business, but, well, I probably can't because, right? I can't do it because. And so that's what I call your head trash. That's what I was talking about, with all my clients. With all my clients, that's the number one thing we work on initially, is to identify and then take out that I call it your head trash, the voice in your head that says that I'm not enough and I can't do it because. And so make sure that you identify that. And, again, that's what, of course, all my books and my coaching, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching or even my keynote speeches, that is. So I have a stated mission. My mission, on this planet is to eradicate not enoughness. That is my mission. And I argue that not enoughness, the belief in not enoughness, is what's causing most human misery and unhappiness. And so that is my stated mission. And well, we helped over 1 million people. So we're doing well. We have a lot more people to help.
You also talk about in that previous book, a 13-year-old girl who had chronic insomnia. She cured it in one night. I don't know if she was a client of yours or how you found out about
her mom
this.
was. Her mom was a client, and so her mom shared, my Afformations method with her daughter. Her daughter, 13-year-old Stephanie, was a chronic worrier. She couldn't sleep. She was, having to sleep in the parents' bed, and of course, you get to a certain age, and it's like, you want the child to be able to sleep on their own, and so she tried everything, the mom, and just nothing was working. I mean, even therapy and things like that, and it had been, several years. And then she hired me, and I taught her my affirmations method. She taught her daughter, and then in one night, her daughter instantly cured her insomnia, even cured her chronic worrying. She became very self-confident young woman, and she went on to graduate with honors. And so that's definitely, so for the folks listening, kids love affirmations. So definitely, you want to get my books, get my training, and perhaps even join my coaching program. Then you definitely want to teach your kids that, because that can really change their lives forever.
And that website, again, is afformations.com, AFFORMATIONS, afformations.com. This has been like a really fast-paced moving interview, but there's just a lot to digest. I'm on affirmations.com. I'm going to see if you have some type of course or email list or something. The other websites that you mentioned, well, of course, there's our main website, noahstjohn.com, noahstjohn.com. There's also breakthroughwithnoah.com. That's breakthroughwithnoah.com. And then there's there's 12weekbreakthrough.com. That's the number 12, 12, weekbreakthrough.com. And then what did you say was the other website of your latest book, 7-Figure Life?
Yes, 7figurelifebook.com, just like it sounds. 7, the number 7, 7figurelifebook.com.
7figurelifebook.com. Dr. Noah St. John, this has been a great interview. Any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners, or anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, make sure you get the help and support you need. The world is a ever evolving and more complicated place, and especially for those of you who are either working from home or you want to start working from home, have that that new career, that business. There's a lot, and it's changing very, very rapidly, and the speed of change is always going to keep increasing. So make sure you get help. We've given you lots of resources and places to go, so make sure you get the help you need so you don't feel like you have to do it alone.
Thank you to our listeners for listening to Dr. Noah St. John. You can check us out at workfromhomeshow.com, get on our mailing list, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and a few other social media. If you have any questions or thoughts about this interview, email us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. And until next week, keep on working from home.